Illman, Mike Beer creeping closer to the Kentucky Derby. Race number 11 at Churchill Downs on the first Saturday in May is the Grade 1 Turf Classic. Older horses going a mile and an eighth on the lawn. You arguably have the best turf horse in the country right now, and Colonel Liam likely to go off the favorite. Before we get to the analysis, still time to head on over to DRF.com for the one-stop Derby shop. Derby packages include past performances, betting strategies for the whole card, clock reports for the whole card, lots more, all at DRF.com. Here's the field for the Turf Classic, the Old Forester Bourbon Turf Classic. And Colonel Liam has just been a revelation this year for Todd Pletcher. We always knew he had the ability. He has really put it together with his races at Gulfstream and Fairgrounds, respectively.
Yeah, he's been really good since they switched him over to turf, Dan. Could easily actually be undefeated as a turf horse so far for Pletcher. He's obviously very good. This is very, very clearly the toughest field he has ever faced.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector for this race, Mike. I think there's going to be a little bit of a cat and mouse game coming out of the gate. Smooth Like Straight has speed. He's kind of settled down in his last few races, but this is a horse that we know can be fast out of the gate and can control the pace. Personally, I think he should go make the front, but I do wonder if Ivar is going to make him work. I know Ivar's come from off of it in his last two races, but he's running on a longer distance fresh. I think he's got to be forward.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Ivar is certainly fast enough to get right up close to the pace if they want him there. We'll see how they decide to play it. I'm with you. I think Smooth Like Straight probably has to go and try and make the lead in here. And then we'll just see where the favorite winds up there, because Colonel Liam, he's a horse who's not going to be obviously up there on the pace, but he's a pretty handy horse.
Master of Foxhounds, the number one, is a handy horse as well, and he seems to be improving for a dangerous trainer in Richard Baltas. Let's watch his most recent start. They ran him a mile and a half in the Grade 2 San Luis Rey Stakes, and he ran into a couple of good ones. United and Say the Word are two of the better long-distance horses in the country. Master of Foxhounds tries hard. He finished third. Now he's going to cut back in distance. Do you think he needs a little bit more ground?
No, I actually like him trying to go a little shorter in this race, Dan. I actually feel like, and obviously the two horses that he's beaten by here are both two really good horses, so that's certainly something of an excuse, but even the mile and a half could have been a little bit of an excuse from there. I mean, his two prior starts, the two wins, he looked really, really good winning both of those races. Crushed that allowance field, steamrolled the old-timer Acclimate in his prior start to San Marcos. I mean, I don't mind them going shorter with him in here. The question is, can he improve again? Because, man, did he land in a tough spot here.
The number 2, Count Again, might be a live long shot. He's also based in Southern California for a really good trainer, Phil D'Amato. And this horse was good enough to win the Seabiscuit, first time for D'Amato last year at Del Mar, and last time out in the Frankie Kilroe Mile. To me, that was one of those slow, early, fast late races. And Count Again might have been a little bit compromised by the lack of pace up front, but boy, he fired in the stretch.
Yeah, this horse ran a really big race last time off of a little bit of a layup. I don't know what happened in his prior start there, but obviously something went wrong back in January. They gave him time. He came back with a big run last time. And when you start taking his form apart, I mean, I don't know what the deal was with him early, but he basically never really got started till he was a 5-year-old. But he came around really quickly. I mean, one good turf race after another. I like that they're going shorter distances with him now. I think that's going to really help this horse. He finishes very strongly in his races.
Colonel Liam has won 4 of 5 on turf, including this race, the Pegasus World Cup Turf at Gulfstream Park, where he saved ground early. He got to the outside in the stretch, and he just keeps on rolling by these horses. And then last time out at the Fairgrounds in the Muniz Memorial, he got a nice trip under Arad Ortiz. As you mentioned, he can make his own trip. He saved ground. He got outside. He ran by the speeds. In many ways, he's the horse to beat.
Yeah, I think in many ways he is. Again, I do think this is the toughest field he's faced, but this horse has made no mistakes. That race that we just watched there, that Pegasus World Cup Turf, I thought he ran really well there to win that race. You know, last time I wasn't quite as impressed, but let's be honest. I mean, they absolutely walked on the lead in there. He kept himself in range. He ran down the horse he had to run down. You know, another 99 buyer speed figure for this horse. He's really good.
Ivar, the number 4, was a multiple Group 1 winner in Argentina, and he's transferred that form successfully to North America. He has run 4 consecutive triple-digit Beyer speed figures, including 1 in a gate-to-wire effort at Churchill Downs. Now, in the Breeders' Cup Mile last time out, he kind of just sort of grinded and stayed on to finish 4th, and I'm not really sure how to assess that race because it was won by that gigantic long shot. But his race before that in the Shadwell Turf Mile, I thought was a strong finish. This is kind of an interesting spot because it's a longer distance than what he's used to off the layoff, but I think he can get forward, and I know he's fast enough to win.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. I agree. I like the way that you broke it down too, Dan, because when you first look at him on paper, you just sort of feel like he's going to sit and make one run, but he doesn't have to do that. I mean, they could really get him involved early, and that could help this horse. I'm with you. I don't really know what to make of his Breeders' Cup last time. I guess he ran fine. 3 Europeans beat him, even if one of them was a huge long shot. He ran fine in that race. Another triple-digit Beyer.
Chad Brown, I think, has a pretty good turf force here on the number 5, Domestic Spending, a horse that's won 4 of 5. He won the Saratoga Derby. Then he went out west. He won the Hollywood Derby. Let's watch the Hollywood Derby. Didn't break very well. Seemed to be ridden comfortably by Arad Ortiz at the back. We see him angling to the outside. This is a race where the pace falls apart a little bit at the end, but boy, this horse really streaks on home.
Oh, man, he ran huge in here, I thought. I hear what you're saying. Maybe the pace did fall apart. I don't know if it did, Dan. I feel like maybe this horse and the horse that's rallying to his outside there, Gaffoe, might have just been the 2 best horses in the race. They both came flying at the end of that Hollywood Derby. This horse, to me, that was clearly a step forward for Domestic Spending. Now he's back as a new 4-year-old for the best turf trainer in the game. There's a lot to like here.
And again, he's another horse I don't think that needs to be a one-run closer, that can adapt somewhat to the pace. And if Chad's here, I think he'll be ready off the layoff. Chad also has Digital Age, who won this race last year when it was contested in September. They ran him in the Breeders' Cup Mile off of that race. He just didn't fire. He's going to, I think, do better getting back out to a 1 1/8. He might be a little bit more pace dependent than Domestic Spending. And I think Domestic Spending is a bit more upside and perhaps natural talent.
Yeah, I mean, those things might all be true. On the other hand, there's nothing wrong with this horse at all. Now, I know that when he won this race last year, it wasn't against a field like this one. This is a way tougher edition of this race. But Digital Age is pretty good, Dan. You know, that he went on 105 when he won this race last year. Prior to that, going a 1 1/16 around 2 turns at Saratoga. He ran another fast race. I looked at this race. I feel like he's good enough to win if he can get the right kind of a trip. And I just felt like he was going to be, of all the major players in the race, I feel like this horse is getting overlooked.
I think he'll be a very good price as well. Smooth Like Straight, the number 7, could be the controlling speed. That's what Timeform US believes. We saw him in the Hollywood Derby on the pace, just get run down by Domestic Spending late. He then won the Mathis Brothers Mile as the odds-on favorite. Let's watch that Kilroe. We talked about a little bit early on. Not a lot of pace up front. Smooth Like Straight has an advantage turning into the lane. He's going to pass that 25-1 horse he was up close with, Flying Scotsman. But we're going to see Count Again come into the picture and finish 3rd, beaten a half length. I think Smooth Like Straight ran well. I'm not sure this is the best he can run, but if he gets up close and gets an easy lead, he's dangerous.
Yeah, he really is. I do think he's a dangerous horse if he just manages to shake loose on the lead in here. It's still not going to be easy for him to win, Dan. There are a lot of really strong finishers in this race, so he better give himself a pretty good cushion.
Cross Border is just a hardy, honest horse. 3rd in this race that we're going to show right now, the Pan American at Gulfstream Park. This race was at a 1.5 miles, but he's versatile to run different distances. All in all, I think he got a nice trip in here. This Churn and Burn just freaked out on the lead, and Cross Border ran a cross-border race. It was just fine. He's not a superstar. He's honest. He just catches a real tough group here.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's, basically been doing what he did in that race. He's been doing that for the last couple of years, Dan. He's showing up and running his race every single time. He almost never wins, especially when they run him in graded stakes races, but he always shows up.
Boy, Mark Cassie's done a great job with the 9 Ride a Comet. This horse won the Del Mar Derby in 2018, then went away for 2 years. He had no rust off the layoff. He won 3 races in a row, 2 graded stakes races, and last time out in the Maker's Mark Mile, a grade 1, he ran a 103 Beyer. Let's watch Ride a Comet, who has a lot of work to do, turning into the stretch in the Maker's Mark, and I think a pretty good Chad Brown horse beat him. Something tells me that Raging Bull, who always traveled sweetly over the good going in this race, maybe this might be his year.
Yeah, it might be, Dan, especially if he can run like this the rest of the year, because this was a different Raging Bull. He didn't just sit and make one run. He went early in this race. He had this thing taken over by the time they got to the quarter pole, and he carried his run to the finish. Really strong effort from the winner. Ryder Comet ran fine. I mean, he had something to run at in there, and he was making up ground at the end, but I feel like he has to run even better than that against this field.
Top pick time in the Grade 1 Turf Classic. You can go so many different ways. Count Again, the number 2, Mike. We talked about maybe up against the race flow last time out. We saw him really fire on home. I think he could be covered up and sprint on home, maybe get a little bit of a better setup.
Yeah, I'm hoping for that at least, Dan. I like every one of his turf races. I think this horse is I think he's actually really good. We'll see if he can get something to run at in the stretch. I do expect him to come running again at the end. We'll see if he gets there. You know, I didn't want to be way against Colonel Liam. I think he's a really nice horse, but I'm not taking him as the favorite against this field.
I'd feel a lot better about Ivar's chances, obviously, if it wasn't a layoff, but more so if this race was contested at a mile. I do wonder if that's his best distance, but I do like his tactical speed. And boy, it's hard to knock a horse that just seems to run 100 buyer speed figures every time out. I think he can work out a good trip, and maybe just he'll drift a little bit. I think Todd and Chad's horses are going to take money. 4-3-5-6 for me, 2-6-3-5 for Mike. It's the Grade 1 Turf Classic. The Derby's up next.